Okay, so today we're joined by Angela Morris, who is the founder of Woolcool, and we want to chat to her just a little bit about the origins of Woolcool, how it came to be, and a little bit about her career and her opinions on sustainability. Welcome, Angie.
Thank you.
So, can you tell us a little bit more about your background in materials and packaging and how it shaped the founding of Woolcool?
Okay. How long have you got? How long have we got?
As long as you want.
I first started in I went to Staffordshire University and did a degree in, it was art and design at the time. And then after I'd finished that, I went to work at a company who made boxes and packaging with cardboard. So starting with a sustainable material right at the beginning. And I was with them for a couple of years. Then I had my first child, girl. And that was that was 1979. And then from there, I worked from home. So the people that I worked with said, "Oh, you can't leave. You're going to have to do this. Can you do it at home?" And I said, "Yeah, I can do that at home. That's fine." So that's sort of where it all started, me working for myself. So then after that, I had quite a few customers locally that had heard about what I was doing. Mm-hmm. So they sort of contacted me and said, "Oh, can you do mine as well?" And so eventually it turned into a business. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's like, by the time I'd got 4 girls, it was, it was a good company. And we used to do a lot of work for some of the big companies like Cadbury's, Avon Cosmetics, I can't remember them all, but there's quite a few.
Forever Friends, BHS.
Forever Friends, yes. Andrew Brown Sword, as it was there. It's now Hallmark. Yeah, did some for BHS. And it's good to have Jo here to remind me of
well, the Forever Friends reference is because I was, obviously very young at this point, and you used to bring home teddy bears, lots of teddy bears, and I was really excited.
Were they the ones that had like the heart in the tummy?
Yeah. And so Angie would design like the packaging to go around them, so like the plinths and things I sat on. And I remember being really excited, and I was never allowed one. But I used to sneak them.
Oh dear, this is terrible. I feel really bad. Cruel mother.
I would give them back. No. I remember we did get a couple for Christmas. So that's okay.
Yeah. I was given some to give to you, I think, actually. So that was good. But yeah, so there was a lot of different kind of products as well. So from cuddly toys to like cosmetics, and it just, and also fairy industrial ceramics as well, water filters. So the packaging was really across the board. Mm-hmm. So the company grew, so I had to get to some premises for that. And then it grew a bit more, and eventually we had the premises on Trentham Lakes. I think that was the sort of first big sort of, well, not big, it wasn't that big, but we had our own space, and sort of at the time I was probably employing about 4 or 5 people, and then the whole computer technology sort of took over, and people didn't really, I didn't need to actually employ anyone in a unit where you're working with the old kind of drawing boards. Mm-hmm. People, you had to do your artwork on like these drawing boards and everything had to be glued and stuck down upon that to give you artwork, whereas now it's all done on a little screen. And so the whole working on an Apple Mac was just really beginning to become really what designers were using really. So I thought, I've got to have to change this. And a couple of the ladies who worked for me left to have children, so they said they wanted to work from home, so that suited me. So from there on, actually, it sort of really, I was just going back home and dealing with my customers from home and working from home again. And the accountant said, it's a much better thing to do because you'll make more money because you won't be paid.
Just because obviously we like talking about design, don't we, and innovation. I think I remember the big drawing boards that they'd have in those offices. And to think of going from that, which was such a talent, such an art, they were artists, weren't they?
They
There was
were,
a couple that were actual artists that worked
Tina used
with
to
you,
do
didn't
all
they?
the illustrations.
Yeah.
And
By hand.
By hand,
And
amazing,
incredible.
yeah.
And you've still got, haven't you,
Yeah.
drawers of the original paintings,
Yeah.
which is just, some of those are just really crazy to see. When you think about what's created on a computer, think of everything nowadays.
It's kind of downvalued, hasn't it?
Yeah,
It's just a small file on a PC now, whereas before it was something that, like you said, that could be kept forever.
Well, I've got some Cadbury's button boxes that we did. I mean, it must be going back, gosh, I don't know, 30 years it must be, mustn't it? Or maybe more. And took them into to Greg and Gary. Oh, and Gary was like, oh, wow, because he worked for Cadbury's.
Yeah.
And he was saying, the difference between, he was looking at it going, it's got movement and it's not all like very much flat and the same, because he was, the guy who did it was a proper artist. So you got the sort of the pen strokes or the brush strokes, and you could actually, it is like it was a real character, whereas now everything's very flat.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a shame, really, that we've got to that stage, because those people with such amazing skills like Tina and Bob did some fantastic work. And maybe one day I need to bring it into work and show everyone.
Yeah, they were. They were incredible. They were pieces of art, really.
Yeah.
And I think that's. We were talking about your sister, weren't we, and doing art at school, and how it isn't seen as something that
No,
is as
she
good
wasn't
as. Yeah, no, it isn't seen as good as the kind of, in inverted commas, academic subjects. And I think it is. I think it's really important, and it was just. It's crazy to see how times have changed, even in a relatively short period of time, really, to go from drawing, which takes time, and that's what everyone's looking for nowadays, convenience. But actually, like you say, the finished product is probably that little bit more unique when a human does it just by hand. And
I think it's lost its character, and I think everything you look at, whatever it is that's done with the computers, has definitely lost something. And maybe it's just I'm getting older, and harking on about the old days. But
there is a depth. There is a depth. I agree. I think computers, we it's a weird balance, isn't it, between technology and design and creativity. I think I really value what computers bring and the technology brings, and some of the convenience and some of the communication pieces and some of the
world
artworks.
wouldn't be the way it is now, would it? Without computers, without the technology that we use every day.
No.
And the opportunities it's unlocked. I do worry that we go too far and we lose the human creativity.
I think you're right.
It's like looking at Disney now and then, isn't it? Like you look at Disney.
Yes, it's really different.
Completely different. But it
Look
had
at some
more
of the
heart.
old films,
And
like
it's
the Snow
everything
White
around
film.
you, like even down to architecture, things like that. It's almost like the flamboyance, the skill, the fanciness, in a way, has just been taken out of everything, hasn't it?
Yeah, you're right.
Everything's been
Absolutely.
simplified.
Yeah. So,
And you've worked, so just going back, sorry, to the people you work with is, you've worked with Chatsworth, didn't you?
Oh, Chatsworth,
House,
yes.
which was a really interesting.
yeah. I'm glad you can remember.
I remember
me.
these.
You're more than me.
Well, actually, Chatsworth stuck with me because, and it links kind of a little bit to Woolcool as well.
It does. We're getting there.
Your Ludlow Food Centre wasn't, and there was Chatsworth House, both of which you did packaging for food,
Yeah.
didn't you, specifically?
That's right.
And the design for the branding for the farm shops.
Yeah. Because both the Chatsworth created its own farm shop, which is now, I mean, it's a really, I think it's quite famous, I think, now, isn't it?
I did go the other day, and oh my God, it was full. The car park was absolutely full.
Absolutely.
Other farm shops are available, clearly, but
Yeah, no, but it
Chatsworth,
is
yeah,
lovely,
it
and
was
it's got
full.
such a character as well, and they've got a fantastic cafe, restaurant, and you're looking over the Derbyshire countryside. So it's like beautiful. I used to love going there. It was great when I went and saw the guys and designed quite a lot of packaging for them, and then Ludlow Food Centre as well.
that was quite the Chatsworth farm shop. Was that quite an innovation at the time?
Very much an innovation at the time. Yeah, I think they were the leaders in it, really, locally. Anyway, whether they were.
Or was
other
that led
places.
by the Duchess? Or was that
Led by the Duchess, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, she wanted to do this because she was sort of the business brain behind Chatsworth anyway. She when. I mean, that's another long story.
That's a whole other story.
Yeah. So we have to maybe cut that. I could probably talk about it all day because it is an amazing place and it was an amazing time to be working with them. I worked with them for about 10 years, maybe a bit longer even. Created some lovely packaging for them. So sort of that was, but as you say, it sort of leads on to to the wool. Yeah.
The next question.
Yeah. Because from Chatsworth and from Ludlow Food Centre, they both wanted to start sending out food direct to people at home, especially meats, because a lot of the meat, or most of it, and maybe all of it, at Chatsworth is all local from the farmers, local. And so we did create something, but it was a Corex box actually at that time, which was actually quite interesting. But then I was working with Ludlow Food Centre as well, and they didn't do a lot of actually sending meat products. It tended to be the sort of the foods that you don't need any insulation for. And then the chap I was dealing with there went to work at the National Trust, and this is where it all began. Because and I worked with them for about probably 6 years or so. I got involved in the packaging in terms of labelling and cartons, but also they were having a struggle with sending some of the farmers and the meat products out to people at home. And they were it was the beginning really of customers wanting to buy fresh
It was
meat.
unheard of, wasn't it?
It was at the very beginning.
In the post.
The only people that were probably doing it was Donald Russell, but they were freezing it and sending it off in great big polystyrene boxes. So they were doing it for a different reason, I think. I think it was just people maybe, and it tended to be a lot of elderly people who were at home and they couldn't maybe get out. So that's up in Aberdeen. But the National Trust thought, because they got their farm shops now, and they thought that this would be great if we could do this. And so that was my brief, was to find a way of being able to send fresh meat to people at home and keep it fresh, for the journey. And as you know, really that you have to really keep it below 5 degrees for at least 24 hours. And so we were like, I was thinking, what am I going to do? How can this work? I'm not sure what I can do. And there was a chap there, the National Trust, who was the estates manager, and he was sitting in he was on the edge of the meeting. I was having the meeting, and he was like sitting at his desk over the other side. And he said, well, you could use wool. That's a good insulator. We use it. We have to use it in the properties because we have to renovate them in the way that they would have been built. So he got this big lump of wool there, like a big, insulation that you would put in your loft insulation. I thought, how am I going to deal with that? So I thought, that's quite a good idea. So I sort of followed it up and found someone who could do me some felt. Unfortunately, the first felting had got polyester in it, which wasn't quite what I wanted, but it was a good trial. And then eventually I did find somebody who did the pure wool. It was actually a company in Germany, I think, that did it. So I did manage to. So I did all the trials. I did a trial with the wool, and a trial with polystyrene, and a trial with polyethylene foam. And I thought, oh, right, okay, put them all in there with all of the same ingredients. So I went and brought exactly the same products to go in each box for the same weight. And Joe will remember this. And then
we were having a barbecue. We weren't.
Wonder what it was. Why was all this food in the fridge? And so I then I trialed them, and I put them on. I put our trackers. The trackers we use now. I thought, I'm going to use the proper stuff. So I used the proper stuff, and I did a 48-hour trial, carried them around different parts of the house, put them outside when it was a bit cold, put them outside, put them in the sunshine if it was, going to be, kept them indoors where it was quite warm, and give them a proper sort of trial. I think I even put it in the boot of my car as well, but they did a good 48 hours. And when I went to them after 48 hours and I picked up the polystyrene one and open it, and it was kind of cold, and so was the polyethylene foam. And then I thought to myself, that doesn't, that might mean the wool isn't working. And then it suddenly, within seconds actually, it clicked. I thought, oh my God, it is working! It's working, because the others were letting all the cold out, and the other box was just warm around the outside. So you can imagine that first thought was,
it was all warm.
It's not worked, but it wasn't long anyway. That was as people say, was that your eureka moment?
Yeah.
I suppose it was. Opened them all up. The polystyrene ones, they were all kind of condensed and smelled horrible. And they were, all the bits in the bottom were all like, it wasn't very nice. And the Woolcools, the ice packs were still frozen, and it was good enough to eat. So it really
Amazing.
was the moment.
The moment.
So then we had a barbecue.
With the stuff out the polystyrene.
No, polystyrene. Yes.
Yeah, so that was really the beginning. That was the beginning of it all. And the National Trust then ordered, I think I had about 10,000 boxes from them in the end, but they had, 3 of them had actual images on. Like I did a Welsh box, I had the Welsh mountains on, and I had one for a food centre, Stourhead. I think that, Stourhead, one of the National Trust places. And there was another one for it was Nutri Farm.
I've seen that box.
Yeah,
yeah.
that was the actual.
That's the box.
The very first
The original
one.
box, yeah.
And they worked so well, and it was just brilliant. But then at that time, because we're talking just after foot and mouth, because it all started when after the foot and mouth, when the farmers were struggling, and the National Trust have like 200 odd farmers, might be even more than that. And they wanted to support them to build up their businesses again.
Yeah.
And said, well, maybe you could diversify. It might be a useful thing to do for the future and help them. I mean, some people made things like clogs and some people made, jams. But actually, the vast majority wanted to sell their meat direct to people at home. But then the internet wasn't really as... I think people were a little bit suspicious of using the internet at the time, especially when people were asked for credit cards. Why would I put my
I remember my mum coming, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's not costing me anything, is it?
No, exactly. And also, I think there are some people who are still a bit like that. But that was beginning to grow. So really what happened with that opportunity to do these boxes for the National Trust was really just at that time where I think the internet was becoming, people were a little less suspicious of it. And so that kind of it all, like, as I would say, it was a bit of the magic flow.
Yeah.
And I was struggling a little bit because the 2007, 2008, the big dip that we had internationally, I think, it meant that the National Trust stopped their marketing money. They just put that on hold. And so did Ludlow, and so did a lot of my customers. So it was kind of one of those times where I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? But then I started getting inquiries for the wool box. And I thought, well, I've got no choice really.
Yeah.
And I'd like to do this.
There it is.
So there you go. I think that's probably up to 2008, 2009.
In terms of the skepticism then, against sort of buying things online and sending things like meat direct to the door, they're all fairly new things in this era of time, but so is then using materials like wool in packaging. So obviously you faced a lot of skepticism against the material. How did you manage that? How did you go about that?
Hard work, really. But yeah, it was very surprising that even the farmers were sceptical, which a surprise, I thought, no, this is, you must know about wool. As one guy said, you won't keep it cold. It won't keep it cold, will it? It's wool warms everything up. And I remember thinking, well, I think it doesn't. So I had to tell him, well, it does. It does both. I mean, your sheep are out there in the winter and the summer.
Yeah.
Oh, I suppose so. And I think actually he did buy some in the end. That was interesting coming direct from a farmer. And then, of course, people thought it was dirty, it was smelly, it was for jumpers and coats, and why would you use it for packaging? So it was, I think polystyrene being all lovely and white and clean, and then you show them a bag of wool. So it was just a matter of getting the right companies on board. And the real one that made it was Abel and Cole. Yeah. And whether you're allowed to mention these or not.
Oh, yeah.
They were our original big customer. And that was in 2009. So 2008, it was branded Woolcool. And then 2009, we set up Woolcool, the Wool Packaging Company Limited. So it was sort of incorporated in 2009. And in 2000, about a month later, we had our first order from Abel and Cole. So that was really
Amazing.
good. And we're still with them today.
Still with them today.
I know
yeah.
we have our moments, but
No,
don't we?
no,
But
no, I think
Doesn't everyone?
yeah. No, I
Yeah.
think
no, they're good. And they've been along with us all that time because they were working with organic food and they were interested in the environment. So it sort of fitted.
Mhm.
And they understood it completely and completely wanted to do it, and that was really helpful for us because other companies doing the same thing started to look at it. So it was kind of like our push forward.
Working with a company of a similar nature with similar sort of values, did you have in mind before Abel and Cole became a customer, or was it at that moment that taking on board and working with companies of the same value became almost like a business strategy? Or was that something you had in mind? Was that the vision that you had for Woolcool at the beginning?
Yeah, I think so. And probably before Woolcool even.
Mm-hmm.
Because I did win an Observer Food Monthly Award, which was in the April, which before actually the Wool Packaging Company, after Woolcool brand,
Mm-hmm.
which was in 2008, but before we actually made it into a business in 2009, May 2009. So that year between the two businesses, because I was doing it under my consultancy before, it was, I think it was always in my mind that it had got to be based on sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I always have, even right through my packaging experiences, I've always used cardboard when I can and talked people in, said, right, look, we need to use cardboard here. We're not going to use a plastic or there was somebody who was making jams and they wanted like a plastic lid. And I said, I think you probably be better just getting a normal like tin lid with your glass bottle, your glass jar. So there were quite a lot of opportunities for me to actually push the sustainability and environmental route, which I did, I think, right from the beginning.
I suppose at times, when people didn't even really consider it at all, was it? It was just old fashioned. That's not how we want to do it. We want to look sort of modern, funky. I imagine that people didn't really care.
No,
So
they didn't really.
to champion that
it
says something for so long,
and I think I've always been like that. I think even, I think just always like to be outside and in nature and just, always sort of aware of what was around us and how beautiful it was, and a bit of an outdoor girl, really.
I think you've always had and instilled in us as well, like a respect for nature, because you always talk, don't you, about the balance of nature and about, we used to go to the seaside at Christmas. So we used to go to the beach at Christmas. It's always a bit of a joke because we used to be wrapped up really warm by the seaside and we're nowhere near the sea in Stoke-on-Trent. But here we go to seaside. But I always used to know you would say like the power of nature and the fact that actually it's quite humbling and it's really good for your mental health. It's really good to get out and respect it as well and respect the waves and respect the power of nature. And I think that's been passed down definitely, that it's about the balance of nature, it's about the power of nature, it's about the fact that we often forget that we are part of it. We don't own it. We don't own it. We don't run it.
No,
we're part of it,
right.
aren't we? And I think we forget that part that we play. We don't. I think we take it for granted, and that's
it's really cruel, isn't it? Take them away at Christmas like that and put them in the cold.
On the beach.
I'd love to go to the beach.
No, do you know what? I like it now. I think when you're a kid, you just want to stay and play with your Lego.
The beach really is a novelty for us. Obviously, some people live right by it, but for us, like we're probably the furthest away from a beach you could get in the country.
Thing was, we always saw Granny, didn't we, on Boxing Day? So we came to this conclusion that the best thing to do with I think you're quite happy. Well, the other ones were quite happy to do it.
I liked it. I wanted to play with my Lego. Like you're just taking me away from the toys that I got. But I did. It was good memories.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't awful.
It was a bit different, wasn't it?
And I like it now. Like I always think about doing it now. But it's that. I think it's true to say.
I've always
my opinion about the business strategy thing is, yes, it's obviously part of the business, but I do think it's inherent. So it's been passed on, I think, particularly to me and my sisters. Like, so I think it's inherent in you. There's a slight natural dare I say, hippie nature that you bring, but in a good way.
Yeah.
It was a good way. Yes.
Yeah, and that's, you can cut that one out if you want. But
I
there
don't
is
mind
there's
being a
a
hippie.
slight, no, but it's a good, it's something now that people are seeking, and you had it.
Yeah.
Like however many years, I don't want to say how many years ago, but you had it, many years ago over the time, and you brought that to your business ethos, which I think people are now trying to do it retrospectively. But Angie kind of had it already.
Yeah. So next question was
Jumped ahead, sorry.
no, like the perfect lead on. What do you hope your legacy has inspired in terms of innovation, sustainability, or female-led businesses? So that's sort of you talking.
Right.
Saying that obviously people are trying to do that now, whereas it's inherent.
What do I think?
What do you think? What do you hope your legacy has inspired?
In general?
Yeah.
Yeah, not just in
this
the girls.
we've got in terms of innovation, sustainability, or female-led businesses, or all three.
Well, I hope that the companies that work with us and the people who know us and those that read about us see that it is something special, and that they are inspired to not necessarily do exactly the same, but to at least consider the environment and consider sustainability as a first choice rather than just going directly buying, plastic bottles or polystyrene. I'm hoping that whatever I did and whatever Woolcool's doing and will continue to do will inspire those people who are involved in it. Whatever it is, whether I say customers or even just the odd thing on LinkedIn that someone might say, oh gosh, that's really interesting, never thought of that. We have to think about sustainability, we have to think about the environment. And I think there's a whole sort of groundswell of that anyway. It feels sometimes that it's a bit sort of, it's a lot about the environment, and then you get something else that's, you think, oh God, that's just against the whole environment. But I think generally looking over the last how many years, things like plastics, I don't think that is moving as quickly as maybe sustainable options are. I think plastic has become a bit of an evil product. Now that's just happened because there's been maybe quite a few people like myself, maybe born in the 60s, but 50s, but people born in the 50s and 60s. I was thinking of the 60s as being, and the 50s and the 60s being the sort of plastic era. We had plastic clothes really. And dry nylon was probably one of the worst products. It wasn't really meant for clothing. It's quite dangerous too, especially for children in front of fires. There were some horrible things really in that time where we were just thinking plastic was going to be the whole future. But I think there is definitely more of a groundswell now than there was when I first started 20 years ago with this, over 20 or 25 years ago, with the wool packaging. It's definitely, I don't know, I'm not out there selling, so really, Joe might be able to say whether you think people are accepting it more.
Yeah, definitely. I think probably in the last particularly 5 years maybe, there's been quite a big change in people's kind of opinions of natural materials maybe, and what there's a drive, isn't there, to find solutions to replace plastic or find solutions to solve certain problems, and whether the drive is a genuine drive or it's in some cases a greenwashing drive, but there's definitely a groundswell of genuine people that are trying to do, whether it's business practices differently or sustainability. They're seeing that sustainability isn't just about being green, it's about all of your business practices and being sustainable for the future as a business.
Yeah.
So not just, okay, let's stop cutting trees down. It's let's look after our people. Actually, in 20 years' time, if we have no trees, that's going to be a problem. So actually, as a business, we need to plan for that and those kind of things. So I think there's definitely a change. Even in the last 5 years, I think there's been a big shift. But
definitely.
I do. The other question I wanted to ask, maybe I'm going rogue, I don't know if this is on the question list or not, is I obviously know some of these stories from being your daughter, but the female side is, how have you seen the change in, because I know a story you've told me, and I don't know if I've told this story before, when you first went to get a business loan back in the 80s.
With the NatWest. I had to go into this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You tell stories.
Tell
Your
me.
story, it's not my story.
When I had my consultancy business and doing all the packaging, for various customers, it gradually, the company sort of grew because so many people were coming to ask me to make them, to design boxes for various customers. And I just needed somewhere where I could work, and I wanted a loan to help the business. So I went to NatWest, and I don't mind that being a go-to. And your dad had to come with me, and I wasn't. He would not have given. And
because he's a man,
and he had to.
I love my dad, but I think that policy is really wrong.
Yeah.
At the time,
I had to take my husband, and he had to guarantee me
to prove that you were a lady worthy of a loan.
And isn't that? And that was 1980. Well, I started this 79. Didn't I? 79. I don't think. Yeah, I think you were around at that time. 1985, 86.
1999.
1980.
my age away.
Sorry, I haven't really. 19. I think it might have been between you and Jess actually.
Yeah.
So it's probably 1985 or something like that. To think that in 1985, women still couldn't get full mortgages, and you couldn't get a loan on your own without your husband.
And you were in a really male-dominated industry in the packaging, weren't you? So how many meetings? How many? I mean, this might be a really difficult question, but you went into the meetings. Probably, I'm guessing most of them were male-dominated.
Absolutely.
And do you remember kind of when it started to change, or do you think it's
I'm not sure it's changed that much in packaging.
I
don't think
I've come up against, and you've come up against it in more recent years. It's kind of the same.
Yeah,
it's not. It hasn't changed. I don't think that much. Maybe a little bit. And the one thing that was really difficult is going to one of their, dinners, like a couple of awards that we're in Packaging Today awards, which is like the big one, isn't it? Star Pack Awards. And going there was quite actually, what would you call it? It was, I would be the only lady on a table, and there might be 10, maybe 15 ladies. So some tables didn't even have any lady on them. And it kind of felt a little bit threatening. And you think, and then I don't know whether it's changed at those. I think there's probably more women in packaging. And having been to the Women in Packaging Awards, there were a lot of women there, obviously, because it was all about women. But there were a lot of women with quite good positions in the packaging industry that probably we don't hear of, and probably should be running some of the packaging companies, actually, but they're just like, like maybe sales manager or something. I think there's definitely a male dominance in the packaging industry still.
I mean, that's probably true across a lot of industries, isn't it? But it's just interesting. But you continued with it. So as in, I love the fact that you, in that industry, you just continued, and you were, you didn't care. You were like, yeah, whatever. Like,
well, I came across some not very nice men. I'm not going to
I thought you were going to say something else. Came across some not very nice men.
No, I'm not really men. I mean, just so horrible, and just, wanting to show how, I've got this business and it's all this and the other, and, and it's all this like, well, what can you do for me? Like little lady sort. It's just like, I just didn't bother with if they were.
The world's definitely changing. It's going in the right direction.
Yeah.
But we've still come up against it. We still do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe it's my generation that you're still coming up against, I think.
Perhaps.
I think it is.
I think there's some great, I think there's obviously some champions and stuff, and it's not just about gender. There's all sorts, isn't there, that needs more equality to it. So I think that's probably true. But I think it's interesting because I know your story clearly, and because I know how male dominated the industry was, and as you say, it is changing, but there's still ways to go. How you just continued that and going that innovation, and it comes down to innovation and that just believing something and going, do you know what? It doesn't matter where I come from, who I am, what I do. This is my belief, and I'm just going to continue with it. And I don't care what you say. I'm just going to do this and just continue with it. And I think that's a really, personally, I might be a bit biased, but I think that's a really nice story and a really great, inspiring role model to look at and say, this person had, whether it's female, whether it's this, whether it's that, or whether it's working with a different material in a sector, going against status quo, you just went, I don't care. I'm just going to keep going. And I'm going to believe in it and believe in the magic flow.
I believe in the magic flow. I still believe.
And you've still got the people though looking at you going, oh. And I really like the underdog story of when you go in somewhere and someone goes, oh, what do you do? And you go, I do this, and then you walk away from the conversation and they Google you and they send you a message and they say, oh, Woolcool, I didn't realise you supplied this company or that company. It's almost that judgment before they know about you or as a person or whatever. And I think you've battled that for your whole life and just continued. And I think that's.
And I think one of the there were times where I thought, I'm not going to carry on with this. It's usually when I was tired, and I would just think, I can't be bothered. This is it. I'm going to have to think of something else to do. Especially sort of if you get a customer who's let you down or one's gone out of business, and you just think this. Why am I doing this? But I always, and I think I said when I was at the staff's uni and I had to give that little talk, one thing I said to the students was, you'll have those days where you feel you just want to give up. You don't really know where you're going or what you want to be doing. But I said, you just have to, next morning, just go to bed. If you can sleep, and just wake up the next day and think, well, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to fight this. And that's what I used to do. It used to be waking up in the morning and thinking, yeah. And also because, we had got 4 children and I had to carry on working. Yeah. So if I was going to work, I was going to work for myself and I'm going to make this work.
Was it always your intention for it to become a family business?
Well, my dad and my gran and my great gran all had businesses. So my dad had a supermarket, a small one. We had 3 shops with his brother. And my gran my great gran started the Woods groceries. And then my gran had a shop in Burslem from, all her life. She ran that shop. And so, I think it was kind of, and then my dad had his shops, his three grocery stores. So I suppose it was just in me, really. Yeah. I think the women are quite strong in the Wood family. So it's sort of, I suppose I was just the next one along. And it's kind of it's a little bit, it's to do with packaging food, isn't it? So I think he'd be very proud of me, actually.
Yeah, continuing the legacy, but then also creating a new one.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny, isn't it, how if you look back at your kind of ancestry, there's a theme that runs through it of, like you say, women, but also business. Having a business, or like obviously your dad's business, my granddad's business was also quite forward thinking, wasn't it, in terms of groceries?
Because he went from sort of in the days where you went into a shop and there was a counter and people would have like a tin of biscuits or, a great big piece of butter and they cut it up for you. And that sort of, that sort of time. And he decided that he would have supermarkets and make them into like self-service. And it was like, whoa, especially locally. There was a lot of the local grocers, oh no, well, people will just take it. And people, just pick it up and go. I think the whole self-service was seen as a bit, and I think probably he had this first one in definitely in Staffordshire. And then he moved to a bigger store and had 2 more as well. So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I didn't know that.
I know, isn't it? It's just. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Though, when you look back, there's certain themes that do run through families. It is a really interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, unfortunately, my dad died when I was 12, so I didn't really. And he was in the middle of really what he wanted. He was looking for the next project, and he was actually looking with a very good friend of his that he met during the war. Who was also a grocer, to doing pre-packed bacon.
Okay.
which wasn't, no one was doing it at the time. I remember going to this guy's house and they were talking about it, and they went off to look at some machinery and place for it to, to be able to, find a unit and some machinery to do this. Because in our shop, we used to do bacon, boil the ham as well, and cheese. We used to have like a delicatessens really as well. And it would all be packed, we'd pack it there so people would all be wrapped up when they had it. So I think he thought this was definitely the next move, because he could see the big supermarkets were just, he wouldn't actually survive with the big supermarkets. Once sort of like, I think Tesco was sort of looking around, and some of the other early supermarket chains. So yeah, it's kind of a shame. So maybe I'm taking it in a different direction. But yeah, it's sort of his legacy too.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. No, really happy. So, where do you see sustainable packaging going in the next few years? Do you have any idea of what might come in terms of trends and looking forwards? Are there any materials that you're aware of? Or are we going to give too much away?
Yeah,
it's
probably. Yeah, there's a bit of a secret one. I think I'm not sure where it's going to go, actually, to be quite honest, because the plastic industry are doing their damnedest to find either a way of making plastic sustainable, but putting, I don't know, something in it to make it so it breaks down isn't always working, because you're still left with those granules which get into the water system, and you read horrendous things about that getting into our systems. When we're drinking, there's like bits of plastic. Yes, all very well having plastic that breaks down, but actually it's still there. We can't really see it.
People's brains and hearts and everything now, isn't it? Yeah.
So it's not necessarily right to have bioplastics, and the bioplastics to hold together have got to have, they might use some bioplastics, but to make it stable, they've got to put other not very nice plastics in there. So I don't know where that's going to go really, and I don't know what could be the alternative. It could be paper packaging maybe, but that's probably far more expensive, and I don't know. As long as we've got supermarkets, I feel that we're going to have to have plastics, just for convenience and safety and food, keeping food clean and in good condition for us to eat. So I don't know really, but I'd like to see probably more cardboard, and certainly more Woolcool.
I mean, I guess that's the thing, isn't it, with any material? And I think with cardboard it is a sustainable option, as you say, to put like paper the sustainable option to plastic. But there's also the renewable element of it. I can't speak today. Renewable element of it, which is around not making sure we're not cutting down too many trees. So it's about the amount of material, isn't it? And I think that's where sometimes the natural materials like your wools or your cottons or your corks and things win out, because you don't necessarily need as much material.
No, that's right.
And even things like, I know glass is another one, isn't it, that they can see from replace plastic, and that still has its own impact in the same way that cardboard or any material does. But it's about the balance of material that you're using, isn't it?
I think it is.
And I think, again, going back to that balance point, that the balance of materials, using the right material in the right areas. And I think that's what you've always done in your career, is identify the problem and then put the right material into that to solve that problem.
That's right. Yeah. Because I've used wood and cork and in packaging for my customers at times. So I've used other natural materials. Yeah.
And do you think there's more respect for natural materials now, would you say?
I think so. I don't think people think you're like a hippie because you're,
I think we should own the word hippie now, because I actually think it's something that, levelled at, I think now it's probably...
Well, mentioning no names, I did have that situation where I went to meet, and it's a customer of ours still, and I went to meet the guy who was there. I know he was the chairman, because I think anyway, he might not have been, I think he was, or he was quite high up in the business. And I met him in a hotel in London, And so I walked in. I never met him before, so I didn't know who I was looking for. And then he was looking around, looking a bit like lost, didn't sort of look at me and think, oh, that must be her. And so I walked over and I said, oh, are you? And he said, yeah. Oh, you Angela? I said, yeah. And he said, oh, I thought you'd have a big woolly cardigan and flip-flops on. And he did. And I just said, well, he said, and I didn't actually know what to say, but I did say, well, as you can see, I haven't, you know. But from then on, we did find it quite funny. And I said, well, it does. And I think I said to him, that epitomises what people think, doesn't it? You know,
It's a good icebreaker, that, isn't it?
A flip-flop with sandals or my big woolly cardigan, you know. It's like, yeah.
Do you have a wool cardigan today?
Yeah, but that he was meaning one of those big baggy cardigans, you know, with some beads round my neck, and you know.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
So what does innovation mean to you?
Well, I think innovation can mean a lot of things, but I think that some people see innovation in a way it's got to be completely wacky and completely different than something else for it to be called innovation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that restricts innovation. I believe that it's taking a product or packaging or some sort of product and improving it could be innovation if you improve it in a certain way. So I don't think innovation is sort of a product's got to be completely innovative and something that's nobody's ever thought before. But I think innovation could just be a change to something for the better, that maybe something that's not been thought of before in that product. And I kind of suppose I see that with packaging in general. Anything that we can do with packaging, say from a sustainable point of view, if there's a small change or a different kind of material within it, or do you know what I mean? It's sort of more a development, really, to me, innovation.
Yeah.
Because I think when you say you want something completely innovative, then you have to go a bit.
Sometimes them small stepping stones make a huge difference, don't they?
Absolutely. Went to I think it was project design students from universities all over the country. And there was a girl from Staffordshire Uni. I think maybe, did she speak to you? Well, she spoke to you, didn't she, she used wool, and she had, she made these stools with a wool cushion, but it was without any covering on it. It was really, actually very good. I definitely would have liked one of those. But when you looked around the show, there was a lot of students trying to be so innovative that they become wacky, and you wouldn't think that they could ever actually become a product. Mm-hmm. So the innovation to me it's like a sort of step change, as opposed to going out there and saying, can I do something completely different that nobody's ever done before? Because I think you have to sort of, when you do that, a lot of people then have to step back a bit because they can only use this or that, or they're not going to actually ever be able to sell this product. Mm-hmm. So does that sort
it's
of...
got to be realistic.
Does that
something worthwhile? Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's more about evolution to me. And each step is innovative. Mm-hmm. Because if it wasn't innovative, it wouldn't be evolution, would it? Because it wouldn't be getting anywhere. So I think if I think about it from my experience, that's what innovation's about. Okay. Is those small steps of innovation that make something different and better and new.
Did you ever consider calling it Cool Wool?
Oh, lots of people seem to call it Cool Wool. Warwick used to call it Cool Wool. You better cut that bit out. You listen to it, think. Yeah, no, it's interesting. The Germans call it Cool Wool.
Everybody, still does. Yeah.
Do you get people?
We get even through on the live chat? Yeah, a lot of Cool Wool.
Cool Wool.
Cool Wool.
Do you find Do you find though it is people from like European countries that call it Cool Wool?
It's interesting because I think some people, I mean, even once you spoke to them, you say it's Woolcool, and I don't know whether they think it's because it. So, say for example, someone calls up and asks your email address, and you say, "Oh, so and so at woolcool.com," and they say, "Can you spell it?" And you're like, "Woolcool, like WOOLCOOL." and that point, I think it's to do with the ending of the words.
Mm-hmm.
You know that thing where you see you see a word and you make it up in your own head, the beginning and the end. So I've had all sorts with. I've had wall colds, wool colds, wall cool. I'm like, no, that isn't what I said, but it might be my accent. But I do think there's a, I don't know. I mean, it's great because we can own both, can't we? Really, we can own both of them because really we are the innovators, we are the inventors, we are the. But when it comes to wool,
I think we've
cool
got cool wool. Actually, don't think we've got.
I think we own cool wool.
I think we do own cool wool now.
We're going to own it now anyway.
Somebody did do that, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't get anywhere though.
They might have cut this bit, but someone did actually threaten to come back out with cool wool.
No, they'd already started getting it out, I think, and then they actually got it brand. They got the brand and everything, and
There's lots of naughty people about.
And then somebody told me about it, and straight away, and we got the patent attorney on it.
Cease and desist.
And he loved it.
Absolutely.
He was like, yeah, we'll get these guys.
Yeah.
But you maybe better keep that out.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming today. We've had a great chat.
It's a pleasure. It's great.
And obviously, from obviously you're part of the family. I feel part of the family in terms of Woolcool. But when you talk about sort of the moments where you went into rooms and you felt threatened, from my perspective, and probably everybody else, like, just thank you for doing it. Because otherwise it would be.
Oh,
thank you.
thanks. Oh,
Thanks,
thank
Mum.
you.